but I think so just going back to life is short and, what's the harm in doing something that's going to make me happier or even not happier? It's a change. And I think change can always be something positive.
Hey guys, it's Nancy, and welcome to the She Laughs podcast. Sit down with me while I chat and get personal with some insanely cool women as they share their smarts and their hearts. God gave us each unique gifts, and we got to use them. Inside each one of us is a cool girl. So buckle up. Let's get vulnerable. Let's get real, and let's laugh. Hey, welcome back to the She Laughs podcast. And girls, I am so excited about today's guest. We have Caroline Green with us. She is a registered dietitian based in Dallas and someone who is truly passionate about helping women feel their best. Caroline works with a company called Nourish, which we're going to dig into that too and find out more. But there she provides telehealth nutrition counseling that is actually covered by insurance. So I know firsthand how passionate Caroline is about nutrition and wellness. And it's kind of a passion of mine too. So I am super excited that she's here. Caroline, welcome to She Laughs.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Oh, yeah, you have so much knowledge about nutrition and it's really remarkable. And as you know, I'm always picking your brain and following your recipes, but I'd love for our listeners and our viewers to hear from you a little bit about yourself and how you became a registered dietitian. Like what drew you to this field?
Yeah, I mean, it was a young age of just watching honestly watching family, my grandma battled cancer and watching her talk about food and how it can affect your body. I was like, what? How? Like that can prevent disease. And so that's what got me interested. And then knew going to TCU, okay, I'm doing this. I want to learn about nutrition. And they have a great program where you go straight into your master's and now it's required to have a master's to be a dietitian. So I'm definitely glad I did that. So did that at Texas Women's University and then just stayed in the area. I love the Dallas area and DFW has great opportunities. So worked in weight loss surgery, medical weight loss field and loved that for 2.5 years. And then just realized there's so many different areas of nutrition. I mean, even just being a dietitian and people who know there's food service area, there's culinary medicine. I mean, there's so many different areas where you can specialize. So now I kind of just do more broad scope, women's health, functional medicine also. So that's been really exciting.
Okay. Love that. And go frogs. Yeah. Go frogs. Got to give them a shout out. And they do have one of the most premier nutrition programs in the country. So that's quite a feather in your cap. Okay. So now you are in the field. You've kind of explained to us how you got into that. What I love about your story is that something in your personal journey with your grandmother, right, really resonated with you and you listened to that little voice, which is, God tapping on your shoulder saying, hey, this is a gift I've given you. And you listened to that and you went for it because like I was telling you earlier, there are a lot of young women in college and I was one of them that, graduate and are not sure what to do or maybe have a passion and think, oh, but that's kind of, I don't know what I have to do that. I don't know. But you did. And you followed your heart and your passion and your calling and you're so good at it. And I admire that. So now you're in nutrition, right? Tell us a little bit about Nourish. I know you were working with Nourish now and tell us a little bit about it and what makes it different from traditional nutrition counseling.
Yeah. So Nourish, I mean, it's so great because it offers dietitians the ability to, they handle the hard, the billing side and the marketing and a lot of the things that we don't necessarily at first go to school for and aren't amazing at. So, that's kind of just a weight off our shoulders and we get to do the counseling part, which we love. So it's through insurance, which is amazing because when you go see a dietitian or a nutritionist or someone in functional medicine, it might be out of pocket. So offering that to people is a huge plus. But there's dietitians everywhere in Texas through Nourish. And so even if it's not me, but someone else might specialize in what you're looking for, like you can always find that match with them. So that's a really great perk because there's so many different things you might want addressed or conditions. So
Okay, well, talk to me about that because if I'm listening to this, and I mean personally, I've never seen a nutritionist, so but I know a lot of people do. What kinds of clients do you usually work with, and what are the most common concerns people come to you with? Because someone might be listening and think, okay, do I need this? What is it happens? What do I do? What kinds of clients do you typically work with? And what do you hear most concerns about?
yeah, I mean, that's why I like Nourish too, is I see so many different clients now versus just in one area. But I encourage people who are even just like how I was initially before I became a dietitian that are just interested, like what's good for me to eat, what's healthy. There's so much false information out there. So even just people who are like, what do I do? What do I feed my kids? I need a grocery list. I need a meal plan. Even those things, like having that accountability weekly and 15-30 minute session with the dietitian, like I think we all need accountability, especially to make changes. So I'm kinda more like a therapist, I joke, like, definitely not certified therapist, but, we kind of are a food therapist in a way, and so definitely just for meal prep, family eating, those kind of things, but also I do a lot of GI nutrition counseling, so, IBS, reflux, anything like that we can tackle kind of brings in that functional testing side, like GI testing, stool testing, all that fun stuff I like to talk to my family about. So they've had fun doing that through me.
Well, okay. So it's not, so what I'm hearing you say is it's not just for people that want to lose weight. It's for people who want to be as healthy as they can be. Is that right?
Right, exactly, and that can even be like, "Okay, I got my lab results back from my physical, and I wanna work on my cholesterol, or I wanna work on my blood sugar," and so we track those things, we can do labs that are needed and, communicate with other healthcare providers, so just kind of improving health, whether it's through labs, through, weight management, through functional testing, so different ways we can offer it.
Okay, very cool. I'm curious as to what are some of the biggest myths or misconceptions that women have about healthy eating? Like for somebody who's listening who feels overwhelmed by diets and conflicting advice. I mean, there is so much on social media and even on the, traditional news, right? What is the best place to start?
That's a good question.
What are the simplest daily habits a woman can add to her, her program, whatever, her eating program to improve her energy and overall well-being?
I always and it sounds so basic, but I think, like, kinda 2 things, like, 1, relationship with food, knowing, like, "Okay, do I have a good relationship with food? Is that something I need to work on?" And then just eating to fuel your body, so back to that basic, like, balanced plate, so I do think, like, importance of protein, I know that's everywhere right now, like, that's definitely not a myth, I don't think it needs to be like, "Oh my gosh, we need 60 grams of protein per meal," but, when you start boosting your protein and getting the right ratio of nutrients at meals, you feel that energy and, like, you're balanced, and that can just kinda be a good place to start, in my opinion, just making sure that plate is balanced.
Okay. So there is so much buzz, and I think that everybody knows at least 3 people who are taking Ozempic, Wegovy, whatever, those.
GLP.
Thank you. Yes. I don't even, whatever. It sounds like a molecule or something from chemistry. Yes, that. So what are your thoughts on that? Because I know I've heard different things. So I'm curious as a nutritionist, what are your thoughts on that drug and how it's being used right now?
I think it's, especially when you're using it in the right setting and it's to improve things and, you're using a well-tested drug, I think there's great use to it and there's good science behind it. And I think that's a lot of the myths you see, like, it's been around a long time, but now it's getting the hype. And so, there's a lot of health benefits there with, muscle building and, if you're using it the right way and eating the right way on it is a big thing. So, helping people just keep up their protein and eat as they should on it can be hard when it curbs your appetite so much. So I think if you're not abusing it and, using it the right way, it's great.
So, yeah, and I hear you on that for people who may have secondary conditions due to their being overweight, whether it's diabetes or all the stuff that comes with obesity, right? But what about somebody like you who eats healthy but is like, I want to lose like 10 pounds or but there's a lot of that going around, right? You see women who are not obese who want to be super skinny and they are not and they don't have any pre-existing like diabetes or any of the 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 conditions that it's traditionally been used to treat. What are your thoughts about that and the nutrients that they are getting if their bodies, don't have one of those comorbidities?
Yeah. I would say, and just working with them, like the GI side effects and the price, especially, don't think could be worth it. And I would always go back to just kind of my doing the lifestyle things for weight loss first? Or am I eating the right way? Have I even met with a dietitian to know how to eat for weight loss? Or are my hormones in range? Is GI all good? Because that's where functional medicine is so interesting. Like I always encourage people if they're debating doing a GLP, like first look at like, okay, am I having GI issues or have I had my hormone panel and check all those boxes along with the lifestyle things? And, if a couple months later you're like, I cannot beat this, then debate it.
Okay. Well, all right. So you're talking about the GI stuff. So I have a question for you. If when you increase your protein, you're going to have more difficulty going to the restroom, right?
Right.
And so, what are you doing to be able to test? I know it's some kind of poop testing, but it's not the kind that you mail off, right? Like, what, or is it? Like, I don't know. Would you tell our listeners a little bit about that? I know it's messy and we
Yeah.
don't talk about poop, but
Yeah.
yeah.
My sisters call me the poop manager. So, yeah, it's a great test. So, I generally go through Rupa Health and it's called GI Map, is what the test is called. And there's different, other tests similar to it, but it is one that you mail off. So it's a stool sample you just do from home and send it off, and FedEx comes to pick it up. It's pretty smooth. And then about a month, we get the results back. And, it's not even if you were having constipation or those, issues. It could be, I can't sleep, I have insomnia, or my mood is always changing. Those things are definitely GI related. And so I've had a lot of people who come to me with not even really GI symptoms, but other things that I'm like, okay, I think we should do this. And we see great results doing it. So, uh, kind of presents itself differently.
Okay, do you have to abstain from anything before you take that test or you just eat normal and then you take the test or and that's my first question. And then my second one is that covered by most insurance carriers?
I wish, hopefully, eventually. But, that functional testing still not HSA, FSA, can be used to get reimbursed for it, but not through insurance for those tests yet.
Okay. And then what do you have to do anything prior?
So before, you don't want to be on like antibiotics, steroids. If you're sick during the time, you want to hold off, not be on those medications. And then you do want to avoid any like pain relievers. So Advil, Tylenol, those can influence the lab results. And so about 2 weeks, you want to not be taking anything like that. So that can be hard. I know for people I've worked with that get really intense migraines or headaches where they take those a lot. So, that can be a barrier, but that's pretty much it.
Okay, so that's it. It's all more oral medications and not food, right?
herbal medications. Forgot to mention that. But any, not like, trying not to get too sciencey, but they influence, stuff going on in the gut. And so things,
What does? I didn't hear what you said.
so herbal, like more herbal products.
Okay.
And like, honestly, it's probably in a lot of liver support supplements. The components in there can influence it. So I just usually tell people, like, if you're taking anything vitamin wise, let me know what you're taking. And sometimes we'll just hold off on all that while we
Okay.
test them then.
Okay. And insurance doesn't cover it. So how much is the typical out of pocket for somebody wanting to do that test?
Typical out of pocket is around, there's two different versions. So I would say 350 to 400.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so changing gears here. I know that you have certain foods that you go to for personal foods that you go to for a snack or a meal when you want something quick or healthy. And just for our listeners and viewers out there, I have a couple of them because I always ask Caroline what she's eating. Here's a fun one that I just learned about from her. These are Hornbills, right, Caroline? And they've got,
Interesting, but tastes good.
it's what?
The name is interesting when you try to say it out loud, but
Yeah, Hornbills, y'all, and it's like a good sweet. Um, it's a big candy bar size, but it's only 100 calories, and it has 10 grams of protein and 0 sugars, and comes in all different flavors, and it's super yum. And then this is another one that I've learned from you. These true fruits that they're frozen, or I freeze them, and they're only 90 calories for like 4 or 5 pieces, and they have 7 grams of sugar, and they're super good. Okay, so we love those. What else do you do when you want something quick or healthy? Maybe that's not sweet, but you want a quick snack.
I have it next to me too.
Good.
If they're in my Ziploc from just getting back traveling, I always carry snacks with me, always.
Oh, yeah, see, I don't know about this.
So these are they're adorable. I got them from Costco, but these are the minis. So it's called Magic Spoon, the cereal you've probably seen, but they have Rice Krispie treats. And so for kids, I mean, especially anyone who shops at Costco, like these are 5 grams of protein, the cutest little things to put in like a snack bag. And they're pretty good macros. The normal size has like 12 grams of protein, so a little bit more. But it's a good like snack to hold you over, if you're trying to wait till dinner. And then this brand IQ bar is great for a protein bar.
I don't know about IQ bar. Okay,
Awesome.
how much protein is in there?
This one has 12, but I really like it, especially if I'm working with anyone with diabetes. We're trying to manage blood sugar. Like the fiber is great. So only 180 calories, but the fiber, make sure on this flavor. Yeah, 6 grams in this one. Most are like 6 to 8 grams in these.
Okay.
0 added sugar. So it's only 3 net carbs. So that's really great for a protein bar.
Okay. And what kind of meal? If you're where I'm getting is a lot of women are on the go, right? Whether they are in school or have a new job or they're busy moms or they're traveling or whatever. Travel is so hard. So what would you recommend, how to have a balanced day of eating? And what does balance look like, first of all? And then for somebody with a busy lifestyle, do you have any cheats for them or recommendations? Because what I find is when I'm traveling or on the go a lot with my job or whatever's going on, I am so sick of protein bars. I only like to really have them in a pinch now. And so, but I don't want to go through a drive-through or eat something because I'm so, hangry. So what does a balanced day of eating look like for someone with a busy lifestyle? And how can we incorporate, things that we are grab and go that we can do so we're not forced to eat something, that's not good for us?
Yeah. I think the first thing I do think it takes some planning, and that's something I love to work with people on is like, okay, what does your day look like at first? Get to know you. Do we have kids? Are we moving a lot? And, think about like, okay, do we have time we could meal prep something? And then I always ask like, what foods are you liking? Because I think like a reason a lot of the time we get bored with protein bars or the protein shakes is like that's not what we're craving or what we want. And so like once I find out like what people really like to eat, then try to form those into like grab and go meals. But I think like having a good protein powder, a fiber powder, those things that you can like make balanced meals with is always so helpful because we can really use that to our advantage. But balanced plate, sorry, going back to that, you need your protein, healthy fat, and fiber. So I kind of start with those basics and then we build it from there. Uh,
Okay, give me an example of that because I'm if I'm listening and I'm driving in my car, I'm like, okay, but what is a protein fat, like healthy fat? Can you give it a perfect example of a balanced day or plate of what you just said, like actual foods?
yeah. So one that I always like to have on hand, nuts. Nuts and seeds are your protein, your healthy fat, and your fiber. They're all three. So especially for anyone trying to manage blood sugar, we have diabetes, that is 100% a great food to have in your pantry because you add that to anything and you're starting to balance the plate. So for example, say a yogurt parfait, you have your Greek yogurt for the protein and your nuts and seeds on it could contribute to the fiber and the healthy fat plus a little more protein. So one
What kind of nuts? Because I hear peanuts aren't good, walnuts have a lot of fat. Like, which, I mean, then you got to ask that question. What kind of nuts, right?
and they get a lot of hate. I think a lot of things like peanut butter and, higher fat stuff do get hate because maybe higher calories, different things, but you could get the snack size one. I think variety is good. So if you're not like, I only like cashews, and you like different variety, that gives more nutritional benefit. But I usually tell people like, not that you need to buy everything keto at the store, but it is a helpful label to see on things that are lower sugar. So, like the more keto, higher protein granolas are typically just like your nuts, maybe a little bit of maple syrup or stevia, monk fruit, and you could add just a little bit of that on something. So that's a great way to have the nuts and seeds, but it could satisfy a sweet tooth or just be a snack.
Okay. Now that helps. So, thinking like that, we want a balanced day of eating. We're on the go. You're saying prepare ahead of time. Prepare what? Okay, I'm going to be in my car all day.
Yeah. I would say hard-boiled eggs. Eggs are a great thing. I think you could still bring in the car and eat, or breakfast sandwiches, prepping those with egg and turkey bacon and have them in the freezer where you prep it right before you get in the car. Protein shakes, those could still be useful if you're like, okay, I don't know what protein I want to bring while I'm driving. I could just drink the shake, but then have my snack size bag of popcorn and some nuts and kind of mix and match those things. So I think kind of plan out what your protein's going to be while driving, and then you could add some stuff on the side, and it's like your adult lunchable.
Okay. Love that. That's healthy. That's helpful
Yeah.
because that's healthy. No, that is healthy. No, because I find myself not wanting to prep because it's time consuming and then wishing I had once I'm starving and mad that I didn't take the time to do it in the first place, right? So I think that's great advice. Okay. A lot of women feel guilt or shame around food. How do you help clients develop a healthier mindset?
And definitely, I think that takes time. Definitely not something we just like, help overnight because it's just improving that relationship with food and that can take a while. But I think helping people realize like the benefits it provides the body is what I start with and, go through the food myths and why that's wrong and kind of break it down to where, it's easy to understand because once you realize like, okay, what I'm eating, there's the benefits in it, you start to look at those things instead of like, oh, I shouldn't have eaten that, or oh, I really enjoyed that and had a good time and, start to just improve that relationship slowly. But
Okay. Well,
mental game.
okay. So if somebody wants to work with you, right, to kind of get their nutrition aligned and ready and they're like I want to lose a few pounds, but I really want to be healthier. What does that look like with meeting with you? So they would reach out to you and then what happens? Like You meet once a week, twice a week? Is it virtual? How does all that work?
So, good question. So yeah, I have a link which I can share and it's on my Instagram page. And so you can click on that, the times will pop up. And so we would set an initial consult, which is about 60 minutes. And really that I just get to know you, what you want, goals, just kind of go from there and intro visit. And then usually I encourage weekly. I mean, it depends totally on what we're working on and what your personal goal is. If it's just, I want to get GI testing and meet in a month, we could do that. But I do think for best results, like weekly or bi-weekly is how I typically start. And it could be shorter visits, but the first one's typically an hour just to really get to know you.
Okay, so somebody listening does not have to live in the DFW area. You
Oh,
can
no.
get them virtually.
So all telehealth, which I think is so nice, especially for, when we're all busy and running around, speaking of that. So yeah, it's all remote through Zoom. So super easy.
And how do you know if you're asking somebody to weigh in? How do you know if you're not there that is it like an honor code?
Yeah, it's definitely I would say a lot of the times I don't even ask for a weight sometimes. Like we're so focused on, other things, how you feel eating or what meals are we going to prep this week or labs. And so it's sometimes those non-scale victories we focus on. If someone does want to really focus on number, then, I trust that, you're not sabotaging your own results and progress. So I do always encourage people to do like if you're going to take a weight do a scale that shows more than just that number, like your muscle mass, your body fat. And so we can improve things that sometimes we're not always thinking about when we just see that one number.
Okay, I love that because we can get obsessed, especially women,
Mhm.
with the number on the scale, which can be so misleading as far as your health, right? So I love that you don't even sometimes have people weigh, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's very cool. And I want to circle back. I had a question about protein. I forgot to ask you. I hear that the general rule of thumb is 1 gram of protein per day for every pound that you weigh. Is that correct? So if somebody weighs 100 pounds, they should be aiming for 100 grams protein a day, which is a ton if you're going to tell me yes. Okay.
So yeah, typically it's like 1 gram, point 0.8 to 1 gram per kilogram of body weight. So I usually go up though, generally. So I would say more 1.2 to 1.5. So it might be even a little higher depending on what goals are, but I think 1.2 is a great, base amount.
So, okay, in that example, and for those of us like me who are not great at math, if there's a 100-pound woman, you're saying 120 grams protein? Is that 1.2?
So
I don't.
you would take your weight in pounds, divide it by 2.2 to get the kilograms, and then multiply that by the 1.2. So it's not exactly your weight in pounds, it's your weight in kilograms.
Okay. So let's say it's a 100-pound woman. What would her, do you know off the top of your head? Because I don't. I'm not good at all that.
So I would say it's range 1.2. Let's do it to 1.5.
Yeah. I'm curious because I thought it was for every pound, it's that equal number of grams in protein. And it sounds like you're telling me, no, that's not right. Because that's a lot of protein.
Yeah. So it would be around 54 to 68. So let's round up. I would say the 1.5 would put you at about 70 grams minimum. But, and that's for 100 pounds.
Okay, that's still a lot. So, how does someone pack in 70 grams protein in their day?
So I think that kind of, start back with like, okay, what's my day look like? How many times can I sit down and have a meal? Like, how many meals a day do I have? How many snacks? And then break up the protein because you don't want to be getting all 70 at dinner. So you want to break it up evenly, like with all the other nutrients. So, and you've probably heard this before, but the 30 grams protein per meal is a pretty common recommendation. And I agree with that. I think it's a great amount to aim for. But if you're a little lower, I think like having that range of 20 to 30 per meal kind of gets you to that end goal if you're doing 3 meals a day. So some people though are, if we sleep in late or we're not breakfast people, then I would say let's go a little higher, 30 to 40 at those 2 meals and maybe a snack. So I think it depends on your day and how your day looks like, but breaking it up evenly.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Well, I'm definitely going to be signing up because there's so much, I think, value, especially, well, as different stages in your life, you change and you want, maybe some of the foods you ate before really don't work with you anymore, or the stuff you used to love. Like I used to love protein bars and now I'm like, I can't eat them as often as I did. So I'm so excited to know that you offer all of this. But for the woman who's listening who feels stuck in her health journey, what is one encouraging truth you want her to hear today?
I would say you're never fully stuck. Like there's I think a lot of the times you hear like, "Oh, I stopped once you hit 30 or 40, we can't gain muscle and it's, impossible to lose weight," and things like that. And that is, I think, to anyone who feels discouraged by seeing a number not move or I'm stuck in my food ways, there's always a way out of that. And whether it's talking with me, another dietitian, or friends who have advice, like I would just look towards those different areas. And that could be also like different healthcare providers, seeing where hormones are at. Women's health is very complex, but I think, there's always a way to get unstuck. And so just kind of never getting discouraged with that.
Right? Just push through. And because I mean, you are such an impressive young woman. As I was saying earlier, you've just really heard your calling, stayed true to it, and you're so passionate about it that it's just inspiring. So if there are women listening at any age, whether they're young or older, and they've either got themselves into a career path because it felt like the safe thing to do, but inside they really want to pivot and do something else, or for the young woman who's just got out of college going, what am I going to do? Or for the stay at home mom who is like, my kids are gone now and I want to do something else, whether it's going out into the workforce or maybe they have a hobby like singing or pottery or, whatever it may be, right? Writing. I don't know, but they're afraid to. What would you tell them listening? Because that really is what the She Laughs podcast is all about, is listening to that inner little tap on your heart, that voice where God has gifted you with something and to follow that dream. So what would you tell people listening to do? Because I'd love for them to hear it from you because you've done it so well.
Yeah. And I mean, there were definitely times where, I got too comfortable or discouraged in a certain area I was at. And I think that's a big thing is when we get too comfortable, it's kind of a scary move. Do I switch jobs? Do I switch to this whole different field? But I think like, see, just going back to life is short. And, what's the harm in doing something that's going to make me happier or even not happier? It's a change. And I think change can always be something positive. And so I think just thinking of like, you can make a pro con pro list, but I think you'd realize there's more pros to, it's kind of getting unstuck. If you feel stuck or, too comfortable where you're at and need a change, I think there's only benefit that can come from that. And learning helps.
Yeah, I love that. That is so wise for someone so young. That is so wise because life is so short, right?
Yeah.
And what's the worst thing that could happen? You could be wrong, but you learned something, right? I mean, and you're always going to learn something when you take a chance and step out, whereas you won't if you don't.
Meet new people. And
Yeah.
yeah, when my first job was more weight loss, medical weight loss focused, which I still do and love, but switching companies, I got to do functional medicine, which I would have never known about this whole other world and testing. And now it's something I'm so passionate about. So it was like a scary move, but, just after learning through it and meeting new dietitians, it's been such a great experience.
See, I love that. You opened a door that you didn't know what would be behind. And then there was another door and another door. And each one has led you where you are today. And who knows if this will blossom into another area later down the road, but you are loving it and you are thriving. And I hear so many great things, testimonials from clients of yours, and I'm excited to be one myself.
Yeah.
Um, for those listening, can you please let everybody know how they can find you?
Yes. So I have a specific link, that you can schedule with me. And it's on if you have Instagram, my profile, Caroline_Green_nutrition. There's a lot of Caroline Greens. My link is on there directly. So you can just click on that and it goes to scheduling. But you can also search me through Nourish, their website. And I'll come up there, and pretty easy to schedule online. And we take pretty much most insurance carriers, and they'll let you know the out-of-pocket cost, if any, and affordable healthcare. That's what we need.
Golly, I'm feeling good. There, you can't put a price tag on that. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's great, and the telehealth has been nice too. I think the power of that is so great because it helps other people meet, but getting to have a walking pad and all these things, it just changes my day to day. So I think that.
Yeah. It's so cool because, and that's one thing I think we can really, I mean, there was telehealth visits pre-COVID, but they weren't nearly as prevalent as they are now. And I think that is something so fabulous that has come out of COVID is you can have clients that live on the other side of the country or world, right? Whereas before you were limited in scope as far as what providers you could go to as well. So I think it's a wonderful thing that people are able to reach you that way.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Okay. Well, guys, Caroline, thank you so much for being here today. I loved it. I love you. I love how you just take life by the horns and go for it. So I'm just can't wait to see what your journey brings and to be your client. So thank you so much.
Thank you. This was so fun. And I'm so excited for your podcast and all the people I still get to listen to.
Great. Well, me too. Thank you for being a guest today.
Of course.
All right, guys. Thank you for being here today on the She Laughs podcast, and we'll see you next time. Bye. Thanks so much for listening to She Laughs. If this episode encouraged you, would you share it with a friend who might need a little courage or a reminder that she's not alone? Every share helps more women find their inner cool girl and kick fear to the curb. You can find links to our guests, watch full episodes on YouTube, and connect with me on social at She Laughs Podcast Official, all in the show notes. And remember, the dream inside of you means something. Take the first step. Be brave. God's got your back. And girl, you've got this.